Okay. We are live. Let me make sure my other tab is muted. Okay, cool. Okay. So we can hang out for a few minutes.
All right.
Do you want to do an introduction after we talk about the readathon, or what do you think?
Either way, whatever you think.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and just chat about how our January reading is going for the short stack readathon. Although obviously, if anyone's joining in, you don't have to be reading short books to participate in the reading sprints. But
No. I can go first. Yeah, I mean, part of the point of doing this was I wanted to read more than I was, which I was barely reading like 3 to 5 books in a month. The last half of 2023, and I finished 4, and I'm in the middle of 5.
yeah.
Which is probably not the best way to go things. This week I just started, I finished a couple books and I just started all the books because I was just going to try a chapter, but then I liked the first chapter of all of them. So I just, and so now I'm like, well, now I'm reading all of these.
Yeah. So it wasn't so much try a chapter as start a book.
Yes, that's what happened. So, oh well.
Well, I mean, that is kind of good that they're all ones you're interested in, you know, that is one way to have a successful try a chapter.
Yeah, so it's going good. I've had, of the 4 I've read, I had 2 4 stars and 2 3 stars, so nothing I hated. 2 good ones. I just finished Ireland of Whispers today, so I'll be ready to participate next month in your live show.
Yes, I haven't actually read that one yet. I'm excited. It seems like it's one of her books that even people who don't follow her work, some of that, it's getting some good buzz, which is exciting. Yeah, so my reading for the month has been going pretty well overall. I've read a couple things here and there that weren't short, but for the most part, it's been reading for the short stack readathon. And I started off the month with 2 5 stars, so 2 that I really, really loved. And after that, it's been a little more mixed. I've had a couple 4 stars, couple 3 stars, but for the most part, I'm enjoying things. Actually, the book I just finished is the only one that I've read so far this month that I would categorize as I did not like this.
Oh, no.
Which was a bummer because it was one I really thought I would. It was Grey Mist Fair by Francesca Zappia.
Oh.
It was it's not horrible, but it's one of those books where I don't really know what the main story was supposed to be until the very end, when they basically tell you what the point of the story was. And I'm like, but that's not what you were doing. So I don't know. Didn't love that one, but
That's interesting because I had read the first chapter of that in a trial chapter last year when I was reading 2020. Was that a 2023 release?
I think so, yeah.
So I read it last year as a new releases, and I really liked the first chapter. So I was going to continue, and then I just didn't ever get it back from the library again. So now maybe I won't.
Well, because I liked the beginning as well, and I also enjoyed the ending. There were some things about the end that I think pulled stuff together for me, but it was just one of those books where not that the story was necessarily confusing, although in some parts it was more I was confused, what is the main thing we are supposed to be wanting to happen or wanting to follow in the book. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting experience. I do still, I think, want to try some other things by her, but this was just and I think also sometimes I think part of it is my fault because I get it in my head that I know, not even that I know what a book's going to be about, but I kind of get a feeling for it about the kind of story or the vibes even. And most of the time I'm really good with those, but every once in a while I really do not do a good job. And so I kind of wonder if, like, even though I didn't have specific predictions about what this book was going to be like, if sort of I subconsciously had thought I knew what I was getting, and then because I didn't get that, I was disappointed, even though that's not the author's fault. So could be any number of things. Although that one actually wasn't for the short stack readathon. So overall, my readathon reading has been going great.
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think if you want to do like a quick introduction, Kelly, before we, I don't know, I guess more officially kick off like talking about the readathon. We kind of been doing that already, but if you want to introduce yourself and your channel.
all right. I'm Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly. And I just read a variety of things. Well, I would say I focus on like fantasy, and I don't even know, what do I read?
What is a book?
What do I read? A variety of genres. Yeah.
I always do that with introductions. It like doesn't matter how many times we've done one of those. I was like, I can't think of a single book I've read in my life.
Do I enjoy books? I don't know. Yeah. So that's me. Yeah, I technically also am Cozy Reader Kelly on Instagram, but I have basically all of last year I did not do anything on Instagram. So I thought this year I would start, but it's hard to take pictures when you can't really take pictures outside because it's been below 0. And I don't have great lighting in this house. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll wait. It's going to be like 20 in 2 days, which will be great.
Heat wave, yeah.
I know, that's what I was like, man, it's going to feel like spring.
Yeah.
After the like -25, this is going to be great. So maybe I'll go out and take some snow pictures with my books.
Yes, like it's cold enough to be aesthetic, but not so cold that it's like unbearable to be to be outside. Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Kara. My channel is obviously Wild Book Garden because that's where we are right now. And Kelly is the one who developed the idea for the short stack readathon. This is our second year doing it. And as Kelly mentioned earlier, it was like partly just to like motivate us at the beginning of the year, because that's something that both of us have found really helpful. Like it just feels good to finish a lot of short stuff, and I feel like it sets me up well for the rest of the reading year. Yeah, and as for my channel and what I read, also pretty much everything. Like I read a lot of fantasy, historical fiction. I read nonfiction, contemporary, most things really. Like I sprinkle in some romance and sci-fi, even though that's not like a huge amount of what I read. So I think it's like I enjoy reading a lot of different things, and I also think it's important for a healthy reading diet. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. It's like, what do you do in an introduction? We do these all the time. Who knows? Yeah. So if
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just like thinking of why, because in the past when I've done this, like when I did last year, and then I was doing this for like 2 years before, I had read so many things, like probably 30 things. And I think it's because I have not done any really audiobooks. Like, so I've been listening to 2 audiobooks, but one's a short story collection that I'm only halfway through, and one's like a nonfiction that is like a self-help. So I only listen to that in the shower because it's not like interesting enough to like listen to for a long period of time. It's like perfect for like that, like 20 minutes shower, get ready time. So I haven't finished either of those. I'm halfway through them, and we're at like day 21. So I'm like, where is my reading, my like audiobook reading? I have no idea.
Yeah. It's funny because like I'm sort of in like the opposite mood right now. Like I actually have been doing a lot more audio than usual, which it's still not like the easiest way for me to read things, but I think I'm getting better about figuring out books that are suited for me to listen to as opposed to read. I'm still not doing like a huge amount of audiobooks, but compared to what I usually do, which is almost none, because I've just been like doing a lot of like cleaning and like crafting and like things that are good for me to listen to audiobooks during. So we've sort of swapped places temporarily.
Yeah. I just don't know what I've been doing. I'm like thinking like, what have I been doing? Oh, it's because we had guests. That's okay. This is why. Because we had one guest for like for the whole first week of January, and then my parents were here for the whole second week of January. So we had guests until MLK Day, so that's only been not even a full week yet.
Yeah.
So basically, that's probably why. Because
yeah.
You can't like be like, well, let me sit and listen to my audiobook for 3 hours while you're here. So like I was only like listening to it showering, and maybe like when I walked my kid to school if they didn't come with us. And then I did not walk her and that's a lot of my audiobook time is walking my daughter, to and from school. Like, and we drove all this last week because of it being below 0.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you've solved it.
I solved my issue. So that means the next 10 days I have to do a lot of audiobook.
Speaking of reading, do you want to talk about what you think you're gonna read during the sprints tonight?
Oh yeah, sure. So the 3 books that I'm in the middle of, I guess 2 of these were that I was trying the chapter, and then this one is Huck's fault. She did her best books of 2023, and she had this on there, and I was like, oh, I read half of that last year, and then I didn't like continue. And so I started it over, and I actually listened to the first half since I'd already read it just to catch up. And then now I'm physically reading the second half. So this is technically over the amount for the short stack readathon, but it's actually very big writing. What is that font? Yeah. So I think it probably is under. So I am very far in that one. And then these 2 were the ones I had started a chapter and then just kept going. So I have the Tombs of Atuan. Is that? So this is the second Earthsea, and I'm like halfway through that one. That's going well. And then I started in Darkling Wood, which you've read this, right?
Yes, I have.
And I like this. I only made it a few chapters in. But I had, for some reason, because she writes a lot of historical fiction, I thought this was historical fiction. And so I got thrown off at the beginning when they're like using cell phones and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is not historical.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think you do find out about some things that happened in a previous time period. So like, I think there are parts of it that feel more historical. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a few years since I read it, but yeah, she does do a lot of historicals. So like, it is kind of one of the odd one out, because I don't know. I've only read a couple of her books, but even the ones that I haven't read yet, it's like, I don't know that I can think of another like contemporary one she's done off the top of my head.
So I might get farther than that one today, because it's got short chapters, which I think are easier for reading sprints. Because, Tamara Pierce always has like super long chapters.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can never finish the entire like time in a sprint or whatever. So I might do that one. And then I'm still doing this poetry collection. I've gotten a lot farther, but I'm still just doing a little bit at a time because I've enjoyed doing that. Just a little bit at a time.
I also have multiple options, although I'm only like currently reading 2 of them, but I don't know what I'm in the mood for. So I just have all the things with me. So one of them is Married by Treachery by Barbara Kloss. So this is in a novella series, and I actually, like, one of my specific goals for the readathon this time is that I wanted to make progress in this series, because theoretically I'm doing a vlog on it. And I did actually finish the other one in the series, so like if I finish this, that'll be like a bonus. And I am really liking it. This actually, like, Barbara Kloss is one of the authors that I actually have read before, so I was like looking forward to hers more, and I am liking it so far. But again, just don't know what I'm feeling. I also have a short story collection that I've read 2 stories in, and then I just ignored it. So this is The Scarlet Circus by Jane Yolen, and I really like her writing. So even when like the premise of her story isn't my favorite thing, I just think she's so creative that I usually have a good time anyway. And I find that like a lot of times it's good for me to have a short story collection on sprints, because like you were saying with long chapters, it's like nice to be able to get through something. Another one that I haven't actually started, but I do want to read soon, is a nonfiction, and that's Microactivism: How You Can Make a Difference in the World Without a Bullhorn by Kari L. Williams, which is one of those nonfiction where I'm like, I think the title just tells you what it's about, but I think that sounds really interesting and really cool. So I don't know which of these I'm going to read. We will see. And hello, Julia has joined us.
I realized I was in the middle of a short story too, and I was reading it on my ebook. I have, so that's why I didn't remember it. So maybe I'll finish that one because it's like a longer short story. So
okay,
it's taking me a little longer.
Yeah. I think like the things that I'm in the middle of, I am actually really enjoying most of them. So it's just like in that weird mood where it's not that I don't want to read these, I just can't make a decision about what I want to read. So that's where I'm at right now.
Everything I'm reading right now, I'm enjoying. I also think I might, like, because, we got to start something else, right?
Yeah, I'm about to, so.
I was also thinking about picking one of these graphic things to read so that I have, like, a different medium.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Heartstopper, which I've never read. So I got that from the library. I have The Best We Could Do, which is memoir, and then I have The Last of the Tea Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
So that could be another thing that's kind of easy. Like if I don't want to read a huge chapter in sprints, I could pick up one of those.
Yeah.
But I don't know which one to start. So I'm just like, I have all three.
Yeah. Julia, what are you going to be reading during sprints? I think like I'm leaning towards the Scarlet Circus. Mm-hmm. Because like I've read one other short story collection by Jane Yolen, and I found that like not just that I enjoy her writing, but I read it very quickly. Mm-hmm. And even though sometimes with anthologies or short stories, it can be like, I don't know, you don't necessarily want to like read a bunch at once, at least for me, but with hers, I actually do. So maybe that would be a good way to go.
Are you wanting out?
Julia, you're reading Measure for Measure. Oh my gosh, you will have to tell me every thought you have about it. Like it's like one of those plays that I have very strong feelings about. Not all of them positive, but I think about it all the time. Like I wrote so many papers on this play specifically. Like one of my professors actually, like she had like an unexpected absence or something, and so she asked me to like fill in to like help run her class because it was just like kind of discussion and group work sort of thing, and it was on that play, and so she's like, you know this play really well, you could just like take over. We do love knowing the name of the book we're reading. Yeah, it's like there's a reason that it's one of the ones that they call the problem plays, because I'm like, oh my god, like what were you thinking, Will? Like, I just want to talk. Yeah. So anyway, I'm very excited to hear what you think, Julia.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Have you read that one, Kelly? I don't remember if we've talked about it before.
I have not read that one. I don't think I've read any of the problem ones. What are the other problem ones?
I think A Winter's Tale is one of them. And then is Troilus and Cressida one, or is that considered a tragedy? Let me ask Google.
I would think that's a tragedy just based on like all the stuff that I know happens in that play.
Right. Right.
There's a lot of death, right? So
right. Well, it's like I remember when I learned that like Antony and Cleopatra is not considered a history play, even though it is very historical because it's not English history. Like only English history is considered a history play. Antony and Cleopatra is just a tragedy.
I knew it was a tragedy because I have the ones that are like color coded, and they're like black for tragedy, and I have like the comedies in blue. But I do not own any of the history plays because I'm like, maybe later.
Yeah, those are ones like I think they're ones that are good to work up to, at least for me.
Yeah, a lot of the famous ones that I still need to read. So
yes. Okay, so I remembered I just looked up like the problem plays for Shakespeare, and I remembered that like people, of course, can't agree on which ones are considered problem plays. So it can vary. Like the number of plays of his can vary. But The Winter's Tale is one. Uh, Timon or Timon of Athens, Merchant of Venice, yeah, although that would have been considered a comedy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then All's Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, and Troilus and Cressida is one. Oh, I guess, okay, wait. The group of three that I just read, All's Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, and Troilus and Cressida, I guess those are the ones that are more commonly considered. So basically, nobody knows, nobody can agree, as is typical with Shakespeare.
I do own Timon of Athens because a friend of mine read it recently, and she's like, I really enjoyed it. This is not like one of the popular ones, but I really enjoyed it. So I was like, well, I'll go ahead and buy it and the pretty cover.
Yeah.
I need an excuse to buy another one of the pretty cover ones.
Yes, yes. Julia says, I thought Troilus and Cressida isn't considered a history because it's technically mythology. Yeah, I think it's categorized as a tragedy or one of the problem plays, I think. But I remember like when I was like first reading about like the Antony and Cleopatra one that he did, I was like assuming like, oh, so this is a history because it's like all historical, like mostly. And my teacher was like, no, because it's not in England, so nobody cares.
Nobody, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so should we jump into our first sprint?
Sure.
What are we thinking to kick us off?
Well, do you want shorter to kick us off or longer to dive in? I don't know.
Let's start with a little bit of a shorter one. Do we want to go until 45, maybe?
Sure.
So it's like not quite half an hour? Okay. So we are going to sprint until 45, and we will see you then.
All right.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, Margaret. Welcome. Julia says, got next to no reading done. Because a guy that I had a crush on like 7 years ago liked something I posted on Facebook. That's hilarious. Oh, he got divorced. Had to send my friend a very long voice message about it, and my mind is reeling. Well, you had a very active half hour, Julia. That's a lot. A lot at once. Margaret, did you get any reading done, or what are you working on for sprints today? And how'd it go for you, Kelly? Oh, I think you're on mute still.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I do that all the time.
Good. I read some of the poetry, and then because I had taken a little break from the short story, I kind of forgot I was reading it because I was doing the ebook. I like skimmed through it, the first 20 pages, and then there's like 50 more pages. It's a long short story.
That's like, wow, that's like almost a novella.
Yeah. So it might be why in this whole book it's the only one I've skipped, because it was like the longest one.
Yeah.
I'll say
that's the Daphne du Maurier one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like her writing is just so interesting. Like, even though I'd forgotten, I went back and then I was skimming, but then every once in a while, like, ooh, I want to read it. Like, because I don't know, she just has, especially with her short stories, I think she has a way of just drawing you into the atmosphere of what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to read some of her short stories. I've only read a couple novels by her so far. I also was working on my short story collection, and it's going great. I think this was a good decision to start with this one tonight because I loved the story I finished, and then I'm in the middle of another one that I think I'm also going to love. And also, a special treat for me, it has one of my favorite tropes, which is a ghost boyfriend. I love that.
I should try her short stories. I've only read her like I think I've read a couple of her books for kids, like picture books.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my daughter.
She has so many books that she's written, and so many different kinds of books. And I think I remember like hearing that this collection didn't get the best reviews, but I think part of it is that I just like the kind of quirky, not always quirky, but like there's a specific kind of style. It almost reminds me a little bit of like Patricia C. Reedy in some of her stories. Like one of the stories that I just read, it starts out with, Princess Marian was a middle child, and middle, she often complained, and everything else. Her older sister Mildred was beautiful and about to be married to the emperor, Karl Mage. Her younger sister Margaret was striking and about to be wed to a neighboring king, Hal. But Marian, middling pretty and middling smart and middling in all her talents, was about to be married to no one. There were simply no eligible royals left in the world. Like, I just enjoy that kind of like fairy tale, but also not sort of writing. So like, I think that maybe is part of why I'm like enjoying it more than other people did. That is relatable, Julia. Yes, Ghost Boyfriend as a treat for me, starting the year off right. Yeah, the title for this one is The Scarlet Circus. It's a collection of stories by Jane Yolen, and they are all some version of love stories, like fantasy romance, and I'm really enjoying it so far. There's only been, I think, one story so far that like I haven't really enjoyed, but even that one is so like weird and creative that I'm not mad I read it.
Yeah. Well, was the other short story collection by her you read similar cover? Because I had sworn you read that book. Okay. So it looks similar.
It's the Emerald Circus, so it's like the same like style, but it's like green and yellow. And that one is all different kinds of retellings. Mm-hmm. And that one similarly, there were like one or two stories that I like really didn't like, but there were a lot that I loved, and then some where I'm like, I don't know if I like this, but this is really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, in my mind, I was like, I swear you've already reviewed this book, but it was
similar
in the cover. Okay.
Yes, yes. Hello, Natalie. What are you up to today? Just hanging out, reading?
See, Julia thought so too.
I have the same question. Yeah, this is a different one. I do really like the cover designs though, but um yeah, it is kind of hard to like. I think she has a couple others that are sort of in this same vibe. Like there's like I think like a spooky one, and there might be another one, but I'm not sure. Um yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up because maybe if there's a spooky one, maybe I should read the spooky one.
Yeah, like let me see if I can find. I think they might all have circus in the title, which would make it easier to find. Yeah, the Midnight Circus is the spookier one, it looks like. Oh, and there's a story. Wait, maybe Midnight Circus is not. Okay, wait, I got confused for a second. I thought maybe it was like an anthology with like a bunch of different authors, but actually it is a short story, but like her other ones, it has introductions by another author and like an afterword by somebody. But I got excited because I saw that the introduction for the Midnight Circus is by Theodora Goss, who Julia was just talking about. She's another author where it's like I haven't actually read one of her books yet, but I have a good vibe.
Well, I read something. Was that she the one that did the story that had all the daughters of the?
Yes, and that was the book that Julia just read and was talking about how much she loved it, and like I think I'm gonna love it as well. I haven't gotten to it yet because theoretically I want to read Rappaccini's Daughter before I read that one because I've read most of the other like monster classics that are in it. So
I did that too. I read the. Is that the Nathaniel Hawthorne one?
yes,
Yeah, I read that one before I read it. And I mean, I guess because I had never heard of it before, it kind of was helpful to
yeah,
pinpoint that person. Because the other ones, I was like, well, we all kind of know what is it Frankenstein
right,
or
right.
Jekyll and Hyde? I don't know. Well, all Dr. Moreau, like those are kind of more general knowledge, but that one I had never heard of.
Yeah, I had already read Dracula and Frankenstein, and then I decided to read Jekyll and Hyde, which I didn't like, but I did read it.
Mhm.
And then I don't plan to read The Island of Dr. Moreau. Like, I don't think I would, not even like I just wouldn't enjoy it, but I think I would actively have such a bad time reading that one that I'm going to skip it.
I didn't like, I even like a lot of his books, but I didn't like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Natalie does want to read some. I was taking a writing workshop all weekend over Zoom. It was really wonderful, but my neck and shoulders are killing me. Yes, I can imagine. Lots of resting up to do. Theodora Goss. One book in, and I'm like, yes, my girl Theodora. I do that with authors all the time. It's kind of funny.
yeah,
I know, it's only like 40 pages. I know. But the thing is, I tried to start reading it at one point, and it was just like, it brought back how much I hated the Scarlet Letter.
his writing is so dense.
It's so dense. It's so dense. I'm like, I feel like I have been looking at this page for 20 years. Like,
You're like, what are these words? Do they actually make meaning when you put them together? Like,
yeah.
I just don't even think I could read a full novel by him. I actually got rid of a novel after reading that short story. I'm like, nope, never reading anything by him again. Like, it was torture reading those 40 pages. I mean, I thought the story was interesting.
Yeah.
It was just his writing was like,
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe I got, because I did like an ebook version from my library because I was lazy, and I'm like, I'm not buying this because I don't think I'm gonna like, I think it'll be interesting, but I'm not like thinking I'm gonna love it. And I don't know if I maybe got one of those weird like public domain editions, and so it was formatted strangely. I don't know, but like I started reading it and I'm like, is this even the book? Like, is it one of those classics that starts out with a chapter where you're like, this isn't the same story, right? But then it is? Or am I just like reading the wrong reading the wrong thing? Julia says 100% prepared to be a Scarlet Letter stan. I want to be the unpopular opinion. I respect it.
I just, after reading that one, I was like, no, I don't think I need to go back to the Scarlet Letter.
Yeah,
I think I can remain in my high school days and move on.
yeah, yeah. I have like other classics where it's like I'm a hipster. I like unpopular things sometimes that are old, but Scarlet Letter is not one of them.
No, that is not a hill I would.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not even like going to the hill.
No, I'll be like, I'll just stay down here at the bottom in the valley. We're good.
Yes, yes.
I mean, there's other ones from high school that I would reread now as an adult, and I think I'd appreciate them more. Like,
Yes.
I think like Dickens, like we had to read Great Expectations when you're like 15.
I hate it. Yeah.
Does Havisham or Miss Havisham make any sense when you're 15?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. Also, the fact that she's like 35 or something, and the way everybody is talking about her in the book is like this rotting corpse of a woman, and it's like,
because she's single, Kara. I mean, you can't.
I know.
Like
sorry. Yes,
single.
She's a single woman. My mistake. Of course, she's a hideous monster.
And she lets cake rot. I mean, come on, who does
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. You're reading Great Expectations right now. You guys are making me like tempted to try it again because I hated it when I read it in high school as well. But since that time, I have read 2 other Dickens books that I loved, which are like his very popular ones, like Christmas Carol and A Tale of Two Cities. I was sobbing so much in the best way. Like 10 out of 10. I recommend the emotional devastation of A Tale of Two Cities. But I hated Great Expectations and David Copperfield when I read them in school. Or when I was younger, I didn't actually get assigned David Copperfield. So I'm just very torn. I don't know how I feel about Dickens.
Yeah, I definitely need to read more Dickens because the only thing I've read in adulthood is Christmas Carol. And I love that. I mean, obviously it's just great. But
yeah.
But I haven't read any
so much funnier than the adaptations I've seen. And like really biting social commentary on capitalism. Like I really liked that. It's like, yeah, they kind of, I feel like they tend to edit that part out of like the cozy, like, oh, it's about coming together. It's like, it is, but it's also about the abuse of the working class by the wealthy.
The Muppets had that a little bit with the rats, you know.
Okay. I've only seen the Muppets one maybe once, and it was a long time ago, so I don't actually remember much about it. Okay. He says about Miss Havisham, wait, she's 35? I thought she was 70. Yeah, I know. It's like when I read it in high school, I definitely assumed she was like an old woman. And then I find out as an adult that she's like mid-30s, maybe. It's like she doesn't even qualify for any senior discount in the world, but yeah, and also I think part of it too could have been that I was bitter because our teacher assigned us Great Expectations instead of Pride and Prejudice, which we were supposed to read. So I was mad about that because I already loved Pride and Prejudice. I was like, I'm like, how dare you? How dare you promise me a good time and then take it away?
Yeah, we never read any Jane Austen, so we had one Dickens. We read a Shakespeare every year, which I think is a lot to just focus that much on one author.
Yeah, that is. I have never read Thomas Hardy, and I intend never to read Thomas Hardy. Like I don't think I would vibe with him or his books.
I think I own one. I have not read. We never read that in high school.
Margaret, you're making me curious too. Maybe I would like it more now. I don't know. So, okay, this is funny because like when I was growing up, like Muppets weren't like a big thing for us. So like we didn't like watch all of those like specials. So like I knew of them, but I'm not super familiar with the adaptations. Yeah, see, I would love to read Pride and Prejudice in a high school class. I did get to do a college class on Jane Austen, which was like peak of my existence. So there is that, but
we watched the Muppets with my daughter, my older one. My younger one made it like 10 minutes in and said she was scared. And I'm like, you know what? The Muppets are kind of creepy. Not like Kermit, but like some of the ones in the chorus, they kind of look like monsters. like
Yeah.
when you see him. So she was scared, but my 8-year-old watched the whole thing, and then like the next day she's like, let's watch it again. I'm like, cool it, like
You're like, we are not becoming a Muppets all day kind of
yeah.
family.
I'm like, no, thank you. We just watched it. I'm okay for a little bit. But that was another one where what's his name that plays Scrooge?
Oh,
I
Michael Caine?
Yeah, I remember as a kid thinking he was so old, but then because like I picture Scrooge from the book as being super old, but I think
Yeah.
he was probably only in his 50s. When was that true? I don't know. Let me look at how old he was. When I looked at him, I'm like, you don't even look that old, Michael Caine.
Yeah.
I have to check
Yep.
out how old he was because I feel like he was not as old as I was picturing Scrooge to be.
Yeah. Margaret, if I do decide to reread it, we are definitely buddy reading it. That could be. I also want to read Bleak House by Dickens. Like Hannah and I tentatively have plans to buddy read that at some point because we both are curious about it. So yeah.
Okay. So he would have been, oh, baby, he was 70. Okay. So he was older than I thought he was. Man, he must be ancient now.
That's
Obviously, I don't know what's happening. Oh, no, 60. Sorry, I don't do my math. He was 60 when he
okay.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
I also love Persuasion. It's tied for my favorite by her, and it wasn't until I was like a little older and I was rereading it where I'm like, this is top tier romance and happy ending because Anne is finally getting treated the way she deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Miss Havisham, the original incel. They apparently have Muppet Christmas Carol Funko Pops. Just one more thing women started and men took over. I think that's a good way to do it, Natalie. Like kind of alternating your short stack with like a really chunky classic. Yeah. Speaking of, should we do another sprint now that we've warmed up a little bit?
Sure. Maybe I'll actually, no, I won't finish that short story. That is a long short story. Now I'm
Yeah,
like
like,
regretting reading this
maybe
short story.
maybe by the end of the sprints tonight you'll have finished it, possibly.
It just seems like a lot of
Yeah.
a lot in a short story here.
Should we do a bit of a longer sprint this time? What do you guys think? We could go to 45 again. We could go to the hour, which would be almost a whole hour if we want a longer one.
I don't think I can go that long, or I might fall asleep.
Okay, that's fair.
Because that would be a long time where I would like focus on.
Okay.
So
Should we do 45 again then?
yeah, that would work because then I will not hopefully will stay awake the whole.
Okay. We look over and your screen is just like it's also a lot later for you than it is for me, so
Yeah,
understandable.
that's fine. I'm just feeling tired today. Some days you just
Yeah,
feel tired.
things like that sometimes. Okay, we are going to sprint until 45 again, and we will be back shortly.
No.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Julia might already have gone to bed, but an important update that she just read the mini synopsis of Act 1, Scene 2, already gasping. It's a lot. Oh boy. How was the sprint for you, Kelly?
Good. I was a little all over the place. So I got halfway through that short story and I read some more poetry and it broke my heart, so I stopped.
Yeah.
And I did like pick up the best we could do, but I just read the like she has like an intro. And then have you read this before?
I have not, but I know of it.
Because there's a little like very first like page after the preface is like a timeline, and I'm realizing I know nothing about Vietnam history.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of going through. I'm mostly sticking to the 1900s because I think this story is about like
house,
the 19
but like it's different.
What is
you know? It's like
sorry, like one of my tabs just suddenly started talking. It was like Gavin.
No, you're fine. It
just
happens.
started talking. I'm like, where? But then I have like 4 different collection of tabs, and I'm like, what tab is open and talking? What is happening?
No problem.
So I was just reading this, and I was like, well, maybe I need to read more about the history of Vietnam because I don't know like about any of this. So
yeah, I also don't think I know very much outside of like the basics of the Vietnam War. No,
yeah, I was like, where is Gavin coming from? Stop.
I ended up reading 2 more stories, and then I did some like image editing stuff, so it was productive. It just wasn't what I was necessarily intending to do. But I also find like, even though I was saying that I don't mind reading a lot of these stories fairly close together, I still sometimes like doing other things in between some short stories. So, which is kind of, I guess, the opposite of what I said earlier. But I guess I should say I can enjoy reading Jane Yolen's closer together than some others. But also, the Ghost Boyfriend one was not exactly Ghost Boyfriend, but it was adjacent, and I thought it was good. So
it was good. Yeah. I'll have to try one of those. I kind of want to try the horror one, but that one gets really low ratings. So
honestly, all of her short story collections do. So I don't know, like.
So maybe it's okay.
Yeah, because I haven't actually read that one, but now I'm kind of curious too. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you like her writing and like the kinds of like interesting ideas she does, you might like it. Because like I was saying about the other collection I read, it's like, it's not that I loved every story, but I loved enough of them, and also even the ones that I didn't have a great time with were still well written or interesting, that it kind of like, I still feel like the whole experience was very positive, which is not helpful for you as to whether you should try them. But
well, I should just try a couple, like the first 2, because see, the thing is, like, so the short story collection I'm reading right now is an anthology, so it has like all different authors, and I've really slowed down because I was tabbing like the ones I like, and I noticed that all the tabs were like very beginning, and now it's been like 100 pages of no tabs, like several stories, and now I'm like, oh, I just like not as interested. Where I feel like when you have a short story collection that's all one author, you can read a couple and you're like, okay, I might not love these, all may not all be 5 stars, but you know, like if you like the style, and if you want to continue reading, like when I read, whose was it, Ted Chiang, like all of those not some of them weren't like 5 stars, but every single one of them is interesting and had like a topic that I enjoyed reading. And like none of them would have been ones that I would want to like DNF. But like the one I'm reading right now, like I feel like half of them I would have DNF'd and not continued an entire story collection written by this person. Um,
Yeah.
so this is really helping me solidify that I just need to read short story collections by one author.
Yeah.
So maybe I should like try hers, and if I get through 2 and I'm like, no, the style's not working for me, then I know don't waste your time on the whole thing. But if I like
Right.
style, at least I will enjoy them, even if they're not all 5 stars or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I found, I feel like I've had pretty good luck with anthologies, but I'm also super picky about them. Like, well, like I loved that one that Marissa Meyer edited, which again has horrible reviews, but I really liked it. And I think part of it is because I knew exactly what the theme of the collection was. And also there were authors in it that like I already knew that I loved. Um, but I don't think I'm thinking back and I don't think any of those stories got less than 4 stars, which is pretty rare for me. Um, so I feel like I don't read a lot of anthologies, but I guess when I do, I'm pretty good at picking ones I like. I don't know.
Because you read that one, it had a T. Kingfisher story in it, I think. Was it?
Yeah, The Mythic
Like,
Dream.
yeah, and you didn't like that, right?
Right. Which I thought I would. I thought like the theme would be perfect for me, but there were just a lot of individual stories that it's like, I hate this. I'm having a terrible time right now. Like, so.
And you hate to like DNF a whole anthology like that because you're like, well, there might be authors I love in this, but then
Right.
it's so hit or miss. And that's why I'm feeling it's like this one, I haven't been rating each individual story, but if I was, it would be all across the gamut of the star ratings. Like there would be 1 star. Like there were some that I'm like would have quit reading if they weren't
Yeah.
short stories. And I was like, okay, I could push through a short story. But so it makes it very hard to get motivated to pick it up when you haven't had a good one in a while.
Yeah.
So I put that
These
one
are
down.
kind of weird. Have you thought of like starting from the back of the book now and like working so that you're still reading it like through in a way that makes sense? But like sometimes that can help me if I'm doing a task or something that I'm like, I don't know, frustrated with, or I'm not feeling very motivated. It's like if I had been working forwards, if I start doing like, I don't know, if I start working backwards, that can sometimes make it
Yeah.
feel deeper. I don't know.
Well, the only problem with that is that I was listening to it. And so
Oh, I see.
it make it
Okay.
very hard.
Yeah.
And like I've been doing where I'm only doing one at a time. Like that is like my car book. So I'm like, okay, if I'm running errands, then I can I listen to one of these stories during a session of errands because it would like kind of be,
Yeah.
they might be like a half hour long, and I don't go straight to the next one. I give it like I've been doing just kind of like one a day, but then I stopped. I don't think I've read that one in like a week. I was reading it one a day at the beginning of the month, and then like put it down for like the last week because I was like, ugh, I'm getting frustrated about not having a good one. But I should keep going and finish it. But that's why I picked up the Daphne du Maurier one because I know she's like one of those authors that I'm like, I know I'm gonna at least it's gonna be 3 stars or above, like stories because I just enjoy her writing of short stories. So
yeah, and even with the Mythic Dream, like there were a couple of stories, so like my favorite story actually in the collection was one by Leah Cypess, who I had never read anything from before. I didn't really know much about her, and that helped me discover her as an author. And now I like love her like fairy tale retelling series. I want to read her other books. So like that's something where I'm like, all right, even though I hated some of the other stories, I think discovering an author I love kind of balances that out. And even the ones that I didn't like so one of the stories, this was not my least favorite, but I did not care for it, was one by Arcady Martin. And I had heard good things about the like what is it, Memories of Empire, Desolation Called Peace, like that series. And I had been sort of curious because like it seemed like the kind of political SFF that I could enjoy, but reading that story, not necessarily that it was similar to her other books, but it's like reading that story, I'm like, I have like an excuse now to like make a decision about that series, you know. So it was still productive even if I didn't have a great time. Like the story I gave 1 star was the one by Stephen Graham Jones, and I just think I cannot handle his writing. Like I totally respect that, like he does great work and a lot of people love him, but I am like, I read that story and I honestly was like sick to my stomach. Like it was such a horrifyingly unpleasant like reading experience, and I'm like, I can't even appreciate the craft of this because I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like it was that bad. And I'm like, now I know that even if I hear people talking about how amazing his books are, I don't think I can handle it.
Yeah, I kind of think I wouldn't be able to. I've been like tempted, but then people will mention like this is a slasher or the gore, and I'm like, I just don't think I would enjoy it, even if his themes are good. I just don't think.
Yeah, like the story that I read by him, it was like, because of the myth that he was retelling, and like I get what he was doing, but it's like because of the myth he was retelling and the way that he went about it, it was like it managed to combine the feeling of like reading this main character who it's like cannibalism, bestiality, and also rape. And I was just like, I can't.
No,
I know you're a respected author, and like I'm glad that he's doing so much important work. And like you said, like his themes, I think, are really important and like I don't know, worthwhile. I get that he's working for a lot of people, but I don't think I can handle his stuff. Like, so yeah, I have read his. I actually just read earlier in the month the first bind up of the Earth Divers graphic novel series, which he's one of the writers for. So I guess technically I have read something else by him, although there's a lot of other people working on it. And I'm liking that. But in terms of like his well-known novels, I just don't think I'm cut out for it.
I have a cat just staring at me. Come on. They want to see you. Come here.
Yes, show us the kitty.
Come here. If I pick him up, though, he will just jump again immediately. So I want him of his own free will. Come on. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Come here.
He says absolutely not.
You see the paw?
Hi, baby.
He's like, nope. Nope, you reach.
You get one paw and that's it.
How dare you reach? Come here. Come on. Come on up here. Come here. He was eating my bookmark just a second ago.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I've had to learn to be very careful when I use tasseled bookmarks.
Come on, why don't you come up here? You're teasing everyone with a paw showing up. Oh, silly. Okay, he's not going to come up.
He wants to leave the people wanting more.
Yeah. I have these bookmarks. So I don't buy tassel bookmarks myself, but these were I have to mark my spots, but these were Christmas gifts from my kids.
Aww.
So Eliza made that one.
That's so cute.
And Bernadette made this one that says, it's always read, always wonder.
Aww.
And it says, I love you, Mom. And meow.
just that final finishing touch.
Yeah, I gotta put the meow in there.
Yeah. Those are so cute. What a nice present.
Yeah, so normally I don't do the tassels because I know the cat will eat them, but I'm like, well, I have to use their book.
Yeah. Or like I'll tuck the tasseled part into the book sometimes, like, which defeats the purpose of a tassel, but it keeps it away from the cats.
Come here. Here, if I bring this out, will you come? Kitty, 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 kitty. He's like, no, I'm just going to run into the table where you have the laptop. Oh, there's some, like, comments, I guess.
Margaret said his big books aren't quite so packed with that much stuff. Yeah, like, that makes sense that a short story was a more intense version. My Heart is a Chainsaw, mostly dissecting indigeneity and trauma through slashers as coping mechanism. No cannibalism, no bestiality, lol. Rape is mentioned but not shown. Yeah, that's good to know. I don't know that like the the slasher element is something that I would like enjoy either necessarily, but it is good to know that like the content of that short story is like unusual for him. So, good data to have.
It's interesting
But
that he managed to pack it all in there, though.
it was intense. I was like, I don't remember the last time I felt so like viscerally sick to my stomach after reading something. Like, I mean, I get the story that he was interpreting, but like, I don't know. I can't. I know I'm sure there are people out there who can like appreciate the quality of that story, but it's like I can't picture it. Like I can't picture having a good time reading that.
Yeah.
More power to you for
Are you,
everyone who can.
are you gonna come up here or just stare at me?
I think he's gonna tease you. I think that's what he wants to do.
Sitting there staring at me. I'm like, you're driving me nuts here. Get up here.
Which CD is this?
This one's Cole. This is the one that used to be when I would film, would just always wanted to be there. He would like hear me start talking and then he would like come running.
Now he's in his gangly teenage years. It's like
he's walked away. So who knows?
Basically a long mystery with some gore at the end. Actually had me wanting to watch those movies. Okay. I'm not great at skipping parts of books, although I know that is obviously something that you can do. Like I find it hard to skim over things.
I had to do that with, is it Paul Tremblay who wrote the like, Cabin at the End of the World? Whatever.
I think so.
And I liked the concept of that book, but there was like torture scenes basically, and I had to skim through those. I was like, I can't read this in detail. And I definitely could not watch the movie, so I was like, nope.
Yeah. Yep. Not something I enjoy either.
Yeah, I like my horror to be more, I don't know, I would say more, I don't really know how I would say it. More gothic, probably.
Yeah, like atmospheric, kind of psychological. Yeah, that's what I like as well, where it's like creepiness and vibes and uncertainty, and it's like the atmosphere. It's not necessarily like horrifying descriptions of things.
No, not like a slasher where like tons of people die.
Yeah. Or even like what I find harder than a slasher is like body horror, like that specific kind. Like because sometimes I think we talked about this. Is like Bethany will talk about like horror books, and I'm like, oh, I think I would love the themes of that one. And she's like, and it's got really great body horror, and I'm like, nope, sorry.
I know she does that to me all the time. I'm like, oh, this sounds so good, and then she'll be like, oh, just a warning, and I'm like, no, I can't.
I'm glad that she does mention that because otherwise, yeah, I would not have a good time. But yeah, it's like sometimes I want like all of the other storytelling pieces, and it's like just don't gross me out, please.
Don't gross me out. Don't have a lot of blood and guts,
which I know is like funny to like demand that from horror, but
well, but I think that's why I like T. Kingfisher, because she does put in some of those creepy elements in her books, but I never think she goes too far for me.
Yeah,
like there's some parts, like I would say the Wonder Engine had some scene there. I don't want to spoil anything, so a specific scene that like vividly stays in my mind.
Yeah,
but it didn't cross the line to.
I think I know the one you're talking about, and yes, yeah, and even in the first book, like I'm like, how did you make deer so terrifying?
Yeah, so there was there's stuff in that one too that I'm like, I can't. But she doesn't go too far with it. It's just creepy.
Yeah.
But I never am to the point where like, oh, I need to put this away and not read it. Like there's been times when I've read like a Stephen King book where I had like actual nightmares that evening. And so I was like, okay, well maybe that one is not a good one for me to read.
Well, and even in like her fantasy books that don't have like that kind of creepiness throughout it, Well, I guess The Seventh Bride kind of is creepy throughout, but like that one, I still remember that scene with one of the
Yeah.
wives where it's like it is very like horrifying because of what happened, but it's not like done in a way that is like just to be disgusting or um yeah, I think she's good at it. Yeah, Sorrowland is not one. Like I have read The Deep by River Solomon and I do want to read more things by them, but Sorrowland is not on my list. Um Margaret says it's easier to horrify me through books than movies because with movies the theater kid fake blood analysis takes over. Yeah, like I think there are definitely some things where it's like if I can like analyze it through some other kind of like experience I have, then like that can make it easier to handle. Like even like not necessarily like movies that are like really horrifying or gross, but it's like there's a couple movies that are like kind of I'm not even kind of, they're like really sad. And like sometimes I'll watch them with people and they're like, this is like a comfort movie for you. And it's like, yeah, like it's just so well done. So like I understand that it can be.
Though I remember because I've always been afraid of horror movies. So in college, I took a horror film class because, well, first of all, it was my favorite professor teaching it. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I am a big girl. I can go and analyze because she was talking about the different like decades and like or time periods and how art reflects what's going, especially horror reflects what's going on in society. And I'm like, oh, I love the analysis. And I literally would like sit in class and take my glasses off so that people would think I was watching the movie. And then I'm not, because I do not see much without my glasses. So it just glows on the screen. I mean, I'm hearing everything, but I was like, yeah, like you think I'm watching this movie, but I am not watching
I
this movie.
love that you've like your glasses are your defense mechanism.
Yeah, like on some of them, I was like, nope, I cannot. Like The Fly. Have you ever seen the old one? I think it was Jeff Goldblum. It is just gross. It was so gross, and so I was like, no, I cannot watch this. Like, see
Yeah,
this person turning into a fly. It's gross and yucky, and I don't want to watch it and
yeah,
have it in my brain. So, yeah,
yeah. I think part of it too can be like obviously people like different people have different like ways that their memory works. Like I have a really good memory for things that freak me out, like especially like visual things like that. So like that I think is part of it where it's not just like I mean, yeah, a big part of it is like I just do not enjoy the experience of feeling like this, but also it's like I know that is going to be like it's not going to be something where I'm like, "Oh, that was gross," and I like get over it and it's
yeah,
fine. I'm like I do not want that in my head for the rest of my life. Thank you.
yeah. I'm like that too. I have like a visual, like whether it's movies or whether it's like real life, like the really horrible real life events. They
Yeah.
stick in my brain and come back frequently,
Yeah.
and so I'm just like, I do not want to put that stuff in my brain.
Yeah.
So I just, especially now having kids, I'm like, I just can't do some of the, especially if it has anything to do with kids. Like I used to watch Criminal Minds, and as soon as we had kids, I'm like, no, I can't put
Yeah.
that stuff that there's people like that on the world in my brain when I have children.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we want to do a last short sprint or do we want to call it a night? I know before we went live, we were both talking about like doing a shorter one tonight.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we could do a short sprint. I'm okay doing another
okay.
sprint. I can make it.
Sounds good. So how long do we want to do then for our finale here?
Well, I guess if we went to 45 again, that would be almost a half hour. Or I guess more than a half hour. I can't do
Yeah. It'd be like
35.
35 minutes. So let's do that. This was the night we just 45 was like
Let's do it. I know
the
that means
magic number.
we'll still be finishing at 10, but I'm okay. I haven't fallen asleep yet.
Okay.
I can make it through. I'll let Clint Smith break my heart again.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Keep you awake with tears. Like, all
Stab
right.
it hard. Hard.
All right. Last sprint. We will be back at 45.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm a minute late. I just realized.
That's fine.
How was the last sprint for everybody?
I did good. I read more of the short story, a chapter of the graphic memoir, and some poetry. So, felt accomplished.
Yeah, that's good. Margaret says got more editing done. Very exciting. I actually did not read this sprint. I had dinner and then I came back and did more photo editing stuff. So again, still productive, just not book productive.
That's fine. Productive is productive. So,
There you go. There you go. And I'm proud of myself that the reading I did do tonight was on a book I had already started.
yes, you didn't start
that's
more.
that's a triumph for me as well.
I mean, I started more and didn't finish it or continue any of the novels, but it's okay.
Yes, yes. I mean, you've only got that one story left in that Daphne du Maurier book. So even though it's a long one, you are almost done with the book.
Yeah, I think now I have only 30 pages left of that story. And it was
Nice.
70 pages, so
Yeah,
good.
more than halfway. Natalie started reading some random poems. That's very cool. Yes, still definitely counts.
Yes.
I think on your sprints, Kelly, we were talking about like our first book of the year, and mine was a poetry collection that was really good. So it's nice.
Yeah, so I was like worried this was going to crush me because the last sprints, he had a couple poems about school shootings, and I was like, oh gosh. And so I put it down. I usually read about 10 pages, but I only read like 3 poems that time. But this time when I went back in, the ones were kind of silly because this goes back and forth between serious stuff and silly stuff about his kid. And the ones this time were silly, and I'm like, okay, feeling good. You
Yeah.
didn't break my heart this time.
Yeah.
Like it's about dinosaurs, so it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. All happy things.
Yeah, he did one poem that I have to have my husband read because it's all about like how when he goes out with the kids alone, he gets like handshakes and pats on the back and like Father of the Year, Gold Star. It's like nobody ever does that when a woman takes her kids out.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they're just being dads. Like that's just the norm. It should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my husband does it. He says every time because he used to take the kids to like McDonald's breakfast, like a special daddy daughter breakfast. And he's like, every time I went, some like old lady would always go up to him and talk about how great of a dad he is for taking his kids. And he's like, she's congratulating me for taking my kids to eat pancakes at a fast food restaurant and saying I'm the best dad ever. Like,
Yeah.
that is so weird.
Yeah. Like the standard is like wild.
I mean, not that I judge people that go to McDonald's, like, it's a valid thing.
Right. But
But, like, the fact that
yeah.
most women would probably be like criticized for like taking their kid to fast food,
Right. Right.
but like he's like praised for it for being wanting to spend time with his
For,
kids.
right. For spending time with with your children. It's like what an amazing like parental figure. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's just
It's like
men.
it's like how I've heard uh like friends of mine that's like who also like they have kids, like they'll talk about how like it makes them so mad when like people's like partners are saying like, oh yeah, I'm babysitting tonight. It's like it's not babysitting when they're your children. Like
That's just parenting. That's just normal life.
exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I do. Okay, so last time I read you a poem from here, I just want to read you part of this poem. It was so good. So I won't read the whole thing, but it like hit me because I've been having this feeling lately. The beginning part was all about how Louisiana's coastline is changing, but the maps haven't changed yet. And then he gets like into the personal. He's like, I think about how difficult it is for any of us to admit that we're not who we used to be. That something in us has been lost over time and will probably never come back. It's so hard to disappear without anyone noticing. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
you just like hit right into the feels, man. And
Yeah.
just like, you know, just, they all started off about maps and I thought everything was fine. And then you're like,
Right?
you're going to
It's,
crush
it's
me.
like that John Green book where it's like, I'm just here for a fun little time and now I'm crying. Natalie says, I remember I saw a gaggle of dads with babies in a park once and these older ladies were gushing at them. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I think women in the same position would have been annoyed. Yes. Or ignored, you said. Yeah, like it's just, that's expected, is like that women are going to take their kids everywhere, that they're basically always on duty, and that's just like being like not even like being a good mom, it's just like existing.
Yeah, like just normal life.
Yeah, and then when
dads
do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it is like I think I'm gonna just start like going up to women that are out with their like kids and be like, you're the best mom ever, you're out in public with your kid. I mean, because they need the praise too. I mean, everybody likes to be praised for the things they do just to survive. Like,
it's true. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it seems like people are at least like talking about the double standard more now, so hopefully it does start to change a little bit. But yeah, it's classic double standards. Yeah.
My cat is now like chewing plastic.
Oh, that's Nala, one of my cats, like she does it to punish me. Like if I make her get down from something she's not supposed to be on, she goes over and she chomps a bunch of plastic that she's also not supposed to be on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like the Amazon like returns, and he's like, I'm just gonna chew this bag. So then when I like take it back, I'm like, yes, those are cat teeth marks on that bag.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Fine.
Natalie says, gonna start praising moms and staring blankly at dads.
Ignore the dads and be like, Mom, you're doing great. Stop. Now he's going for the knitting. No. I don't know why he suddenly decided to be a little punk. He's like, you're not paying attention to me, so I'm just going to do all the things.
He's in his rebellious teenage years. Like,
I don't know. I think it's because I closed the door, and he's not like he didn't paw out the door or anything to let out. He's just like, well, I got to do things, because I'm stuck in this room now.
Yeah, I got places to go, Mom. Yeah.
We'll go soon. He probably wants me to go to bed. Like, this is normally like...
I was actually just about to say, like, it's almost 11 for you, right? No.
10.
Yes.
And he's
because
like...
your time zone's different now, and I have to, like, retrain myself. Yeah, so this is a good place to call it for the night. Anything that you want to, like, talk about coming up on your channel, Kelly, or...
I mean, it would be nice if I posted a video.
That's what you can advertise, is like, come back so I maybe do something.
I have like several planned, but I just haven't sat down to do them because we've had so much company. So hopefully this week I will actually record those videos, because I have one. Well, I'll tell you what it is. I'll spoil it for you. And the like however many people that are watching this, I want to do.
We like to do that. We do fun bonus content.
I already have it like planned out. I wanted to do like an upcoming new releases, but like I wasn't really that excited about the 2024 new releases, and I barely read. I think I read 4 new releases last year, so I was just not on top of it. So instead, I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna do like, these are the later in series books that are coming out that are inspiring me to start the series.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so like one would be like Emily Wilde's.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the second book is coming out soon, I think. And that makes me want to pick up Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairy. So like, I'm not really necessarily excited about a lot of things that are coming out that most people would be like, oh, next in the series is coming out, or the standalone. I'm like, these are later in the series are coming out, making me actually want to start them.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, so that's the one I need to record. I've got all the like ones. I've even like bought a couple of the like first in series. Like this one I just got. This is the first one, and the third one is coming out in 2024. Wow, did I accidentally like get a? No, it doesn't say, but it looks like large print. And I'm like, this is awesome for my for my old lady bifocal eyes. I'm like, yes, finally making adult print that you can actually read.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, so that one will hopefully come soon if you pay attention.
All right.
So
Yes, coming attractions
yes.
on Kelly's channel. And Kelly is already linked in the description. Thank you, everybody who hung out with us. Hope you got some good reading or relaxing or other things done. Thank you to anyone who watches these back. I know we get some people who do that, and that is also very appreciated. And yeah, I hope if you were participating in the Short Stack Readathon, I hope it goes well for you. As Kelly and I have been discussing, it's been mixed results, but overall good. And honestly, like the most basic theme of the readathon is just like kickstarting your reading in the new year. So even if you don't finish things, or even if you don't actually read a lot of short things, it's still like on brand, still on theme. So all right, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Now it's going to take like 20 minutes to end the stream.